Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to F&I Tips with Becky Chernek, my co-host here, Michael DePreazer, and he is the founder of F&I Masters. And boy, let me tell you, do we have a great topic in store for you guys today. Now, if you're new to this channel, I'm Becky Chernek, and I've been providing the very best in finance and insurance training for auto dealers throughout the USA, as well as sometimes you can find me in Michael's neck of the woods, Canada. Michael will also share with you his background. But again, we're going live on YouTube. So if you happen to like me or like us, if you will, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And please make sure to share with everyone. Yay. And of course, we're going live here on LinkedIn. And hopefully you'll step in, jump in, and enjoy this conversation. We are talking about these F&I tips and overcoming objections with visuals. Michael, go ahead, tell everyone about what you do and how you do it.
Wow, well, thank you, Becky. I love these sessions. It's actually kind of a brainstorm for us at times too, so it's really great. Yeah, my name is Michael DePreazer. I'm the owner of F&I Masters. Basically, we help dealerships increase their bottom line using unique training methods. Today's topic is very dear to my heart because objections, well, you're always going to get no's. So we're going to talk about some ways to deal with that, right, Becky?
Amen. We are sometimes, no matter how great that presentation is, and even though for me, or maybe for you as well, Michael, and we'll talk a little bit about that if we have time, about this interview and how important the interview is, and helping us or helping you to present the very best menu, as well as being able to overcome those objections that come up based on a value proposition. Right?
100, 100.
100. Here we go. So, it's kind of ironic. Here we are. We've got two countries going on here. We've got Canada and we've got the United States. And wouldn't you know it, no matter where you travel, no matter where you go, we're going to hear an objection from that customer. And likely, I don't know, but I think that I get the same objections that you may get in Canada, of all things.
If we're dealing with
right, for the most part,
we get the same objections probably.
I mean, customers will always respond either, hey, costs too much, I can't afford it. Hey, I bought one before, that service contract, and it never covered anything. Or, I got the manufacturer's warranty. What do I need a service contract for?
Mm-hmm.
So do you plan to prepare to overcome the objection? Do you know up front, for the most part, what objection you may get, so that way you plan in advance? That if in the event you hear, okay, well, I do have the manufacturer's warranty and there's simply no reason why I need a service contract today. But not only that, maybe even, I'm going to go a step further in having a planned presentation on how to overcome that, whatever that objection is. And let's just say, in this case, for an example, I have the manufacturer's warranty. So does it make sense to plan in advance to be able to overcome the objection so you don't have the deer in the headlight look? You got to have a good idea what you're going to say. I'm not asking you to be robotic. I'm just asking you to plan in advance for the objections. Is that fair? And then with that, utilizing a visual simultaneously. Now, this is kind of where I might veer off a little bit different than you, Michael. Don't know yet. That's the reason why we're doing this together, because we don't necessarily have to agree, right? We don't, but we respect one another.
This is facts.
So I like the idea of doing that, overcoming the objection and utilizing visual simultaneously to get the customer involved. And it becomes a lot more interactive. And so, and I think you mentioned too, seeing is believing. So what are your thoughts?
Wow, this is a hot topic. It reminds me of this one phrase: what you know in advance, do in advance. So let's talk about this. Objections, they're inevitable. They're part of the process. So when a finance manager has deer in the headlights when they got an objection and they're not prepared, this doesn't make sense. Because look at when you buy a car. You come into the dealership, the customer sits at the desk, find out what their hot buttons are, show them the vehicle, you go on a test drive. They come back, you go to the manager, you write up the deal. Did they say yes on the first go? Most times they don't. You got to work the deal. So finance managers don't understand the game starts when the customer says no. So what do I mean? What you know in advance, do in advance. The customers will train you. You don't have to be smart in this business. If you go through a presentation and the customer says, no, I have enough warranty. You do that 10 times and 9 times they're saying, I have enough warranty. Guess what? They're responding to the message that you shared with them for the first part. So you have to adjust and change your message and you can tell it to the customers. So to your point, at the end, when the customer says no, there is only a few common objections. So why wouldn't we strap ourselves with these logical, call it pre-programmed frameworks that we could share with the customer? It only makes sense. We're professionals, but we're not acting like professionals. So definitely, 100%, customer says no, we better know how to answer that. We better know that more than the presentation almost, because that's when the action starts.
So I hear you on that, Michael, but there are many coaches, dealer advocates, coaches, trainers who say, well, really, I don't want that F&I person to be robotic in answering and overcoming these objections. And you really need to kind of, and I know I'm kind of like almost speechless here, but it's almost like you got to figure it out. There's no, let's not, they call it word thoughts, not word tracks. And I don't know. All right, maybe it's a thought of some sort that are we preparing for? Can you help me understand what is the difference between a word thought process versus word tracks?
Semantics.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Semantics. Who does sound robotic when they know their stuff? Does somebody actually sound like a robot when they know their stuff? They don't. So if you have something canned, you're not going to sound like a robot, because when you know your stuff, you add the tone and inflection of your personality. So these ideas, they just don't make sense. You got to study your craft. This is a craft. Could you believe, I don't know a business where you could learn how to handle objections and double your income? What are we playing with here? So if a finance manager goes through a situation and they can't handle the objection that's commonly, get them out of the office, please, or get them trained up. Because the lost sales, see, dealers will talk about they're making $2,500 a copy. I would like to say, no, you're losing $1,500 a copy. And here's a perfect example. Go through a process, ask your finance manager, when a customer says no, what do you say? They have a blank face. This is where the money's being lost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it makes sense to study up. I don't know if you know Jeffrey Gitomer or have ever heard of Jeffrey Gitomer. He's not in the car business. He's a sales leader. And he has some amazing content, many books on leadership skills and closing techniques. And he talks about the importance of being able to offer a value proposition and being planned. You're going to hear objections time and time again, but those objections you should already know in advance because you already hear them all the time. So it doesn't matter like what country I'm in. I'm likely going to hear the same objection time and time again. So it only makes sense to study up, to be prepared. If I know I'm going to hear, I have the manufacturer's warranty. I know I have a perfect car. I'm buying a Toyota. I bought a service contract before and it never covered anything. If we know in advance that the likelihood of that customer is going to say or object in a certain way, it only stands to reason to be able to have a planned presentation to be able to address and overcome the objection. But also not only that, but to interact with visuals. I am telling you, I have met some of the best F&I pros in this country and also in Canada who utilize visuals simultaneously. as they address and overcome the customer's objection.
Percent.
Why don't most do this?
It's simple, because Benjamin Franklin said it: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So why don't they do this? Well, you have to earn the right to handle an objection. So this starts at the beginning of the process. Like, you have to have a great needs discovery with your customer. You got to know about them. You got to know what's important to them, right? You have to be an active listener, because they're going to share some insights. And these insights are important to their world. So you're going to use those to tie down these concepts later. We forget about tag-ons and tie-downs. Use the customer's word to tie these things down. You didn't you say? So these are simple. And then, what's our impression? Are we just there? Are we building rapport? Or are we just the finance manager? Okay. And a lot of it is confidence, right? When we do these things, we don't have the confidence. So when a customer objects, there's a reflex objection and a sincere objections. The reflex, I got to think about it. And then the finance managers leave it at that. Do you think a customer is going to go home and say, hey, honey, kids, give us a second, I got to think about this? No. So we want to find the real objection. Hey, when you say you got to think about it, is it something I said? Is it you don't like the product, or is it the price? Get the real objection first. Once you have that, you need visuals, because see, at the beginning portion, I always say, don't use too many visuals when you're explaining it. But when they say no, the no basically means no, not right now, based on what you give me. Give me some more stimulus, and let's see that later. So if they say no, then it's almost giving you the right to bring out the sheets to explain it. Now, why is this in our favor? 85% of the customers buy if it makes sense. Could you believe this? But why aren't they buying? It doesn't make sense. So if you know the sincere objection, then you could show information. Because why? The customer, when they say no, it's very sincere, because their no is based on their emotional state, what Uncle Freddie said, what Uncle Tom said, their past experience. So if we keep telling them they need this, they'll never move that point. But if we share information after we find out what's the sincere objection, guess what? It becomes now foundational information. They now know facts. So it makes a bigger gap. Oh my gosh. You know, maybe I've had 2 coaching calls yesterday. And all they talk about is how they overcame objections. And they use these keywords: love your customer, love your customer. Put down the shields first, then let information sell. You know, enthusiasm doesn't sell, it's information. Because when you share it, people have to counterattack it to what they know. So yeah, they don't have the confidence to do it. That's why. But it's necessary for sure. That's when the sale starts.
So you say something about if you've got to bleed in training.
The more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
And I mean, I got to say, I agree with that. I think it's so important to prepare. And because things do happen. I mean, things happen here with me all the time. I don't know, as much as I try to prepare, glitches happen, things happen. And you've got to be able to pivot and be flexible when that all comes together, right? I mean,
100%. Now, see, what you said is something technical. This is stuff they know the customer is going to say.
And no, exactly. We know for a fact. I mean, not everybody. Depending on your needs assessment, as you mentioned earlier, you know how I feel. I like to get out, meet customers earlier on if I can. You understand the benefit behind that. But you also understand sometimes these guys just don't want to listen, and they don't want to do the interview. They don't want to meet the customer out at the salesperson's desk. And for the life of me, I don't get why. It doesn't make any sense, especially, we need to do a better job, frankly, in validating this transaction, figuring out better ways for an approval, wrapping our head around the deal to make sure it's correct. Now, the thing is, in Canada, I will say, and you can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, when that deal makes its way into the F&I office, it's pretty straight up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Does the customer understand the terms of the sale?
Yep.
Do they have a bill of sale where the customer has signed?
That they'll come into the finance office, and the finance will print that off.
Well, how does the customer understand
a deal sheet signed? Yes.
What does that deal sheet look like? Is that an e-lead worksheet? What is that?
That's actually the contract basically in before they come to the finance. So you're buying this car, this is the price, this is the rate, you agree on this. Yep, boom.
So
And then,
they are signing off on this piece before they make their way into the F&I office.
so it has to be a solid deal. The finance manager isn't there to close the deal. The deal has to be closed first, for sure.
Amen. Let me tell you, Michael, I love you, because that's not happening in a lot of our stores here in the States. It just, some of the big stores, public stores, yes. But I am telling you, I have talked about this until I'm red in the face. But I got to tell you, talks about it in NADA 20 groups, NCM 20 groups. I talk about it all the time. How many times does that deal make its way into the F&I office? And unfortunately, customers really do not have a good understanding of what they've agreed to pay for a car. Sometimes we have the e-lead worksheets, and the e-lead worksheets don't have true itemization of what customers agree to pay. And they sure as heck don't have an APR and payment. I mean, well, some do. Some do. I won't say all of them. But many times that doesn't happen. I'm like, well, what? Back when I first got into F&I, and many years ago, I get it. But we used to have a buyer's agreement. A bill of, now we would also print out another bill of sale when the customer purchased additional products. But we started off understanding the terms of the sale. The customer agreed to the terms, knew what they were paying for the vehicle before they made their way into F&I. And so now we don't have that so much, right? So we don't know what the customer agreed to. It's, it's even tough for an F&I person to determine what the customer actually agreed to in some cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases. So this is why I'm saying, why in the world, knowing that your commission is based off of that, your credibility, would you ever think of not doing that interview just to make sure you have a good meeting of the mind and understanding what that customer has agreed to pay for a vehicle? Can you imagine how difficult it would be and is for an F&I person who didn't validate this transaction earlier on to try to present a menu?
Oh, good Jesus. You can't
with
do
the
that.
APR, with the base payment, all the terms prior to the products being presented. You tell me, how am I going to do that and save face when that payment is, or even trade difference or whatever, customer says, I didn't agree to those terms. Now what?
Well, I mean, again, this is pros versus Joes, right?
Yeah.
Look, customers are not customers. They're the go. We call them customers. They get tossed around. Do you know they're the only ones who pay the bills around here? And we're not tailored around them. So look, those who get it will grow. Those who don't, they'll say how it's economy, it's the way rates, it's the weather. So yeah, the grass is greener where you water it, right? So yeah, it definitely interests me because it's the most profitable part of the dealership per square inch, and it's the only job I know where you could double your money real simple just by uploading some skills. So yeah, well, it does cross my mind as why don't people do this obvious situation, for sure.
I feel that's kind of like where I really feel it's so necessary, especially today more so than ever. Let's validate this transaction. Let's make sure that customer is who they say that they are. And as we go through it, let's set up and make sure that there's a need for those additional products that we're going to be presenting to the customer and having a better understanding of those needs. We don't have to be robotic in nature. We can have a conversation with that customer, but let's go ahead, let's get in there and let's validate this transaction, and also assure that you understand the needs of, or the value behind the products that you're presenting to the customer based off of their driving habits. It just doesn't make, for me, I know, some of these, and let's call it what it is. So an F&I person will tell me, Beck, don't worry about that stuff. I do my interview in the F&I office.
I'm not sure.
And maybe that's to some degree okay, especially if the deal's coming in straight from the desk.
It has to for that to work.
Exactly. Because if it's not, you got a major headache you're about to deal with. And they fix all that, they tell me, on the fly. Well, I got that. we'll fix it. That's why I do the interview in here. We key up the deal. I make sure it's straight and all that. And, we just don't want to take too much time doing this or that or the other. And I'm like, well, if you don't do this, it's going to take 20 minutes longer in the F&I office, straighten it all up. Mine is losing your credibility along the way.
Yeah, I mean, how do you create friction and then sell products? How do you close it? Who gets paid more, the general practitioner or the brain surgeon? If you want a kitchen done, who are you going to call? The guy who does it all or the kitchen person? Finance people should be finance people. Sales people should sell the car. It gives that separation. So it's like, yeah, they sold the car. Hey, I'm the bank representative. Hey, that's the sales. I'm the bank. So they've got to be a clear cut so the customers doesn't see this whole mishmash of not knowing who's responsible, who's in. Oh, man. The focus is off. I'm not here to focus on closing a car deal. I mean, is that why they have finance managers? Why don't have a one-stop where someone does the whole Freddy, if that's the case?
Well, because they are used to, it's called a box close here. I'm sure you've heard of it, maybe or maybe not, but here we can't seem to get away from these box closes. Don't worry, Becky. Customers agreed to buy this car. Okay. They've agreed to the price. It's your job to close them on the payment. They still can't get around that. And it's amazing to me, especially with some of the changes that are going on. Just recently announced in the F&I Today group that Carvana, not Carvana, sorry, CarMax, gosh, that's C. CarMax has recently announced they do a pre-qualify, a soft pull on the lot to make sure that customer understands what they actually qualify for, their payments before they land the customer on the car. AutoNation just text and they'll go ahead and do a pre-approval before the customer even comes in to the dealership. Now, how in the heck some of these dealers still to this day are not there, nowhere to be found there, but wait until that customer makes their way into the F&I office to close the customer on a payment. Happens a lot. Now, here's the deal. If that's happening, F&I needs to be closing that payment out at the desk. Now, they think I'm nuts, but I have seen it the minute I changed that process and put in validation, validate a payment range. Doesn't have to be exact at this point. But guys, you got to get to those terms earlier on before that customer makes their way into F&I, because it becomes really ugly. And I can tell you how many times I have worked with new F&I people, and this is exactly what's happening to them. They get the deal without the payment. Customer doesn't care about the payment. We're all good here. It's your job to go ahead and take care of that. They whip out a menu, present the menu with this base payment. All of a sudden, the customer goes, "Hold up right now. There's no way I can make a payment of $725 a month. Wait a second, I can't do it." So when that happens, and then they finalize or come to terms with the payment, how easy is it going to be able to overcome those objections or present those additional products?
There's car objections, there's finance objections. It's too many. It's and why don't a lot of dealers focus on it? Because they're too busy working in the business, not on the business.
Yeah.
Right. So they're overwhelmed. But you know what? Those who I feel run a good business, they delegate these stuff to their managers, and they're looking at the reports and they're seeing where they could scale stuff, and they're looking at best practices. But no, it's they're in the business. They're called to the service. They're going to rescue service. They're rescuing the sale. They're doing. Finance manager has a chargeback. They're speaking about. They want to get their hands too dirty.
Amen. I bring this up only because I know we're touching a little bit on this interview and why I'm such a, hard, I'm just all in when it comes to doing this interview. And I know I'm banging my head up against the wall here because I just see so many times when that deal does not make its way to that F&I office, it's not clean. Customers didn't understand all the terms. The taxes registration isn't correct. even proof of income isn't or hasn't been validated. We don't even have STIPs that are correct, let alone title to trades, or even insurance confirmed. So we can talk more about that later on, but that's really why I'm very stick-to-itive when it comes to that, and making sure we get a tight deal before that we make their way into the F&I office, and also to assure that we understand the value behind the products that we're presenting, for crying out loud. And as you said, how do you present, or how do you overcome an objection if you don't know the need behind the objection?
Somebody tell me, please. You're throwing darts. You're throwing blank darts. You're throwing.
It is.
Yeah.
You are. And some guys get really lucky. They really do. They're like, oh, I got this, Becky. Don't you worry about it. I'm like, I'm cool. I'm glad you do. But the reality of it is, if you can be more precisioned, having a better understanding, being more fluent, being able to make sure that you're able to share the reasons why, a service contract will benefit that customer based off of what they told you. You told me that you plan on holding onto your vehicle for 6 or 7 years. You're driving anywhere from 15 to 20,000 miles per year. It stands to reason that most of my customers have taken advantage of a service contract. If I can ask, how come you chose not to? As standards as that is, it works so many times. Can you tell me why that is? What is it about it that you chose not to take advantage of the service contract? It kind of doesn't make, I don't know, based off of what you told me. They're going to tell you why.
You nailed it on the coffin, because at the end of the day, you supply the information for a customer to consider, and they have to respond to that. Well, what a lot of F&Is do is the customer says no, and they guess the customer is going to piece these things together. They drive all this time. They're not going to piece nothing together. But when you share it, they now get to see a reality that they actually didn't see. They're too busy trying to buy a car. So again, it's the assumptions that are made in the office that when a customer says no, they know why they said no. So no, like you say, give them the information that they said, and then let them tell you why they don't want it. That's not going to be an easy conversation. But
it just stands to reason.
Yeah, and if we don't do that, well, the customer is not going to pull up that information to help put them in an uncomfortable zone. So,
Here's the thing. Have a better understanding of our customer. Make sure that you understand their needs, and be prepared to overcome the objection that likely can come up and will come up on countless times, and then utilize a visual simultaneously in my world to get activity, get interaction with that customer, get the customer engaged, have a better understanding of what you're trying to talk about. Oral is one thing. Visual is quite something else, right? Is seeing is believing, as you said.
100%. You need a combination. Talk by itself. Picture. What do they say? A picture says 1,000 words. I think a picture says 1,000,000 words.
Million words. It does. It really, really does. So
1,000,000 words. So I'll write a picture. They'll fill in the blanks. They'll see how it works. They'll add their own touches to the logic that you presented, and they're going to be able to understand, okay, why they need it. But too many customers, the F&I is making them feel like they're buying warranty, but they're not. They have to let the customer know that they're not buying warranty. They're buying what the warranty will do for them. Right. And they need to get that across.
Amen. They do. It's what is it about this that is really going to be telling why a customer will take advantage of the service contract, tire and wheel, any other products, total loss protection. What is it about this product that is really going to impact the reasons why you should reconsider that decision to purchase that service contract, that product from me? What is it, right?
Their brain, for sure. This is the question. If there's one question they should always have in their brain, it's that. Why should I purchase it? What is it? WIIFM? What's in it for me?
Amen. Absolutely. What's in it for me?
And not your growth, F&I. We don't care about your growth.
Hey, can I get you to go ahead? And I want to say congratulations. I know we need to finish up here. we're at the 30-minute break point. But could you just real quickly share with your our viewers, what's going on in your world? And congratulations. I hear that you just got another dealer group to go ahead and bring you on. And I got to tell you, I'm really, really happy to hear that. And I know you have a special presentation. And, you know, one of these days, I'd love to really kind of dive deep into that motivational presentation that you do. Could you quickly just kind of share that with us?
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm very passionate about the business. I'm more passionate about people and, you know, enlightening them and letting them see their true value. So basically, I believe one foundational thing. We don't have work problems. We don't have finance office problems. We have personal problems showing up in this neck of the woods. And people lack confidence. So yeah, my training program is very unique. I'm able to take somebody, increase their confidence, let them know they are the cat's meow and they feel it. And then teach an awesome process that marries into them. But what's really been making a difference is the mindset training. That's what's been getting these dealer groups to sign on to my program, because then when they realize that someone could go through a 2-day program, hear some information, and actually change their behavior, and it's sustainable, it's magic. It's absolutely magic. So I just love it. So yeah, thanks for that. And I'm gonna continue trying to inspire people just like you. I mentioned to you that when I left my job and I had to create the business, you're the first person I reached out to, because you're this person who inspired me during this journey. So it's amongst the same. We love people. So yeah, you love people, your methods are going to be effective. The results are going to show, because people want to know that they feel that you love them. And if they feel that, they're going to willing to do what you say. But it's too much time to tell, do this, do that. So,
Amen.
Yeah.
I really respect that from you. I feel the passion. I feel the enthusiasm that you share with everyone, and you're caring about everyone. And I'm like, gosh, can we make this contagious? Can we put this out there together? Because that is the name of the game. Making others feel better about utilizing some of this skill set to really be able to apply, but feeling really good about it. You got to feel good about your day.
Gotta feel good about everything. Yeah.
Everything. Amen. I'm telling you, I think the world of you, Michael. And I am so gracious that you are here with me and we're able to do these F&I tips. I know it's going to blow up. I'm so happy again that I get a chance to go ahead and do that with you. That is for sure. And congratulations again. Keep up the terrific work. And we'll see. Are we coming back here Tuesday, next Tuesday? Or yeah, I think so, because Thursday for me is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Tuesday work. We'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. We'll have some good stuff again. And thank you again, Michael, for being on with me today. And everybody, thank you for being here and listening in. And oh, by the way, if in the event you have any tips for us that you would like to hear more about, share it. And let Michael know. Michael and I are a team on this deal. So he's co-host with me on the F&I Tips with Becky Chernek. So just make sure you let us know what we can do, what you guys want to talk about. Yep, we're good. Okay.